You're listening to the VegasTours.com podcast. We are up to episode number 212. Hi, Debbie. How you doing?
Hi, babe.
How's my wife doing? On this beautiful, hot day.
I'm awesome as long as you don't make me go outside.
No kidding. God. You know, I mean, it's like Minnesota. Oh, we got snow. Holy cow. It's like, yes, it's hot. Well, no shit.
It's summer's here.
It's the
Summer
desert.
is here.
And I got to laugh because I forgot who had made the post, but it's like, yes, world, it's over 100 degrees. We do not need to see photos of your dash thermometer saying it's over 100 degrees.
We all feel it.
Yes.
We
know. Happens every single year.
Yep. And this is the time of year when you go to the grocery store after dark.
Way after dark.
What's this week's topic about?
This week's topic? Mm-hmm. Preservation. What are we preserving? Vegas. Got to preserve Vegas.
That's a must.
Yes. This week I did well, actually it was last week. I did a interview with Dr. Heidi Swank and Michelle Laramie.
And who are they?
Who are they?
Yeah. What do they do?
They are from the Nevada Preservation Foundation. They are here to preserve Las Vegas.
Oh. And how do you do that?
By not blowing it up.
Oh, like what we usually do.
Yes. Vegas is a young town. You know, we were founded in 1905. Okay, we didn't get our building boom until the 1980s. But once we legalized gambling, we took off. Mm-hmm. Vegas went from being a railroad town to being a center of entertainment. And you just didn't build four walls and a roof here. You had to build something a little bit more because it's Vegas. We have the casino owners. We have the celebrities coming here. We have this, we had the world looking at us.
And each casino had to compete against the others, so
right.
they had to be eye-catching and something to grab attention.
So you had the world's most famous architects come here to design the casinos, and while they were designing the casinos, they built the houses. Mm. Once you get off the strip and you get into the communities, especially the older ones, you get these really nice, very picturesque houses, which again shocks a lot of people. Mm-hmm. A, that we all don't live in the casinos, and B,
that we live away from them in actual housing communities.
Yeah.
And
it was interesting to talk to them because I'm fascinated with, of course, Vegas history, mm-hmm. and the fact that everyone thinks that either we don't have any or we're blowing it up. It's refreshing to hear that we're actually preserving it.
Yeah, trying to save some of it.
They just had their Las Vegas Home and History Tour.
Ah.
And the center focus, or the big event, other than the fact that you got to meet some people who lived in some really neat houses, some really, really historic houses, got to learn about all that, and you got to walk through some of the older neighborhoods. You could get a
bump up your tour?
Yeah, add-on, e-ticket.
Ooh.
And see Jackie Gaughan's apartment on the top of the El Cortez. Now, for those of you that don't know, Jackie Gaughan basically owned downtown during the 60s and 70s. He bought the El Cortez. He helped build the plaza. I don't think there's a casino downtown that he didn't have his hands somewhere in the dealings of it. Yeah. And he died 2 years ago. And his pride and joy was the El Cortez. And I think he was 95 when he died. But, every day he would go down and he'd play poker and he'd walk through the casinos and he'd talk to everyone. And in the past, I got to interview his son, Michael, who we talk about. And, he's just, he was the nicest guy on earth just because he owned half of downtown. It didn't faze him.
Right. He was still one of the guys.
How can I get you to spend more money in my casino and be nice to you? So to go through his apartment must have been just a real kick-ass experience, and I was jealous of that. So,
Aww.
Yeah. So, one of the during the interview, we were, one of the questions that I asked Michelle, how long have you lived here? Okay, and she goes, 8 years, and it was 8 years today.
Wow.
Or it was either 8 years that day or 8 years this month.
Oh.
She paused and she goes, you know something? This is the only town where people ask that question. And it is.
Yeah, because nobody's from here. Everybody's.
Right.
It's how long have you been here?
I mean, I've lived in Minneapolis. I've lived in Phoenix. I've lived in Atlanta. I've lived in you've lived in a bunch of towns.
Mm-hmm. But this is the only town where they ask you how long have you lived here.
It's like, well, how long is your prison sentence?
Well,
actually,
how long do you have?
Yes, yeah. And it's kind of funny because we do that, but for a lot of us, it's not that. It's that we moved here and we fell in love with the town.
We just didn't want to leave. Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So it's an interesting interview. It's an interesting look at Vegas history because a lot of a lot of people don't realize if you're walking downtown, take a left-hand turn, take a right-hand turn, and all of a sudden you're in these cute little neighborhoods. And unlike L.A. and Chicago, they're not, this is where the Russians lived, this is where the Chinese lived, this is where the Catholics lived.
Right.
It's more, well, someone built some houses over here, so we bought some houses over here. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So listen to the interview. But for those of you that are going, okay, Mark, there's other stuff going on in Vegas. Yes, there is.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah. It is now a 99.99999% chance we are going to get a NHL team.
Sounds pretty official.
Next week we'll... it's the worst kept secret in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much everybody knows about it except for the people who are making that decision.
Right. Rick and I were talking about this on his podcast, Good Sports. The NHL is treating Vegas like this was Iowa. We're going to grant you this golden bar.
Gift, yes.
And Vegas is like, we have a building full of them, so just tell us that we're getting it.
Yeah.
This is going to change your life. Really?
Yeah.
We have, okay, whatever. Just tell us.
You're just a bump in our road.
Yeah.
Just hurry up about it, will you?
Stop dragging this out. You're the one that's losing money.
Yeah.
Had you said 6 months ago when this decision was actually made, yes, Vegas is going to get a team, you guys could have sold $5 million worth of merchandise. Okay?
Yeah.
All right? But instead you're like, we're going to draw this out and just, because it's special. No, you're not special. Mm-hmm. And so I will get into that in another podcast because that is a complete topic all by itself. All right. The Electric Daisy Carnival, EDC, is in town. 400,000 millennials over 3 days, dropping $350 million. Yay!
It's a big deal.
The MGM also announced that they were de-theming the Monte Carlo. Basically, that means they are doubling the rates and renaming it a very generic The Park MGM. Corporate stupidity.
I'm struggling just to bite my tongue and not say anything.
Oh, my God.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to even say about that one.
Okay, anyway. Also,
Vegas is kind of known for the cool names they come up with. You give a name to something because that's what you'll remember. People say the MGM, they say the Venetian. You know exactly what you're talking about. Well, you say the park. Everybody has a park right down the street from their house.
Well, it also sounds like a Sheraton.
It's just bleh.
And
they could have come up with something better.
Well, that and the fact that you come to Vegas for the uniqueness. Mm-hmm. We have a Paris with an Eiffel Tower. We have the Venetian with the Grand Canals.
Yes, we have the Bellagio with the dancing fountains. Yes, so now we have a park.
You have this Monte Carlo that has a beautiful interior, and you're going to gut it and give it a European look to it and call it the park.
The park. Yeah, the park.
Or as one blogger said, the pay-as-you-park hotel.
Yeah, exactly.
Which brings us to the fact that we now pay for parking. Well,
tourists do. Right, we don't have to yet.
Yes. Yeah. December 29th, they will decide. Except for special events. Okay. And it's really funny because all those people that said, I will never pay, I will never do this. I will never. For us locals, we have to scan there's a bar on the bottom of our driver's license. Mm-hmm. Okay. Scan it and the gate's open. Okay. So we don't have to pay for parking. All right. Okay. That's an invasion of privacy. We lost privacy 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Give up on that one. All right. For me, if I had to pay for parking, it's a business expense. Okay.
Right.
Now, the nice thing is, if there's a silver lining anywhere in this, the first hour is free. So if you're just going to go in to grab some tickets or, check a reservation, fine, it's free. Okay. MGM now has a new, I think it's a MasterCard that, that if you get our MasterCard, you'll get free parking, or if you dump a couple $1,000s at the casino and you're part of the M Life group, you got free parking. But
so you're paying for parking anyway. Yeah, so if you gamble enough, you'll get it for free.
Now, the reason I bring up the whole Nevada Preservation Foundation is because this week we said goodbye to the Riviera.
Yes, we did.
And later this week, we say goodbye to Mermaids and La Bayou, as well as Glitter Gulch. Don't know what's going to happen to Vegas Vicky. So that's why I thought this was kind of an important thing, because this is when everyone starts to talk about, Vegas doesn't preserve, Vegas, we do. And Dr. Heidi Swank makes a very good point to this. We don't destroy as much of our heritage as we think we do.
Until you go down to the neon graveyard, and then you realize that we do actually.
We just change names. Ladies and gentlemen, the links will be up on the website. The show notes will be up on the website, which is thevegastours.com. We are on Facebook and all that. Listen to this interview with Dr. Heidi Swank and Michelle Laramie from the Nevada Preservation Foundation. Check out their website. Check out their home tour plans for next year. And the next time you're downtown, take a look at some of the cute little neighborhoods we have surrounding downtown. You will fall in love with it. So any other comments, questions, or concerns there, Miss Debbie?
No, I think maybe when the summer stops, we should go down there and take a look at some of those houses. We might even want to take that tour.
Yes. Until then, we're going to be in the pool.
Yes.
This is Marc Anthony. That's Debbie Anthony. Here is the interview. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is thevegastourist.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marc Anthony. I've got two wonderful guests in front of me. First one is Heidi. You want to say hi, Heidi?
Hi, Marc. How are you doing?
Good. And I have Michelle.
Hi, Marc.
Hi, Michelle. All right. They are from the Nevada Preservation Foundation, and that was Heidi's idea. This was your idea.
It was my idea.
Why?
Well, for a couple of reasons. First was that our neighborhood, the neighborhood Michelle and I happened to both live in, we had tried a couple of times to get designation as...
Where is that?
We're off of basically Oakey and Las Vegas Boulevard in the Beverly Green neighborhood. And so we had tried several times to get the neighborhood designated as a historic district.
Why?
Because there's a lot of reasons. In one, we have a lot of houses that still look really original from the outside.
From what era?
1950s and into
really?
the 1960s.
Okay, cool.
And there's a lot of famous folks from Vegas history who lived in our neighborhood, and some that continue to live in our neighborhood. And there's also just a great sense of the history of that neighborhood, so we wanted to be designated as a historic district. But it takes a lot of work to get designated. Mm-hmm. You have to get 51% of the homeowners in the district signed on in support. And so here's the deal. We would all go to work, have our day jobs, and then we come home and we're like, okay, we have to do historic designation now. And
yay!
And so you would work on it for a while, but then you would just come home and like, I just need to sit. I'm so tired, right? Because it seemed that after your day job, to come home and do all of that at night, it was just a bit much to ask. And I had always thought during those 3 times that we tried it, that if we had somebody who could help us, who could kind of break up the process into tasks, who could kind of guide us through it, that this would be a lot easier to do. So when I was out looking for a job, I decided that maybe that was a good job for me, would be to start a nonprofit that helped neighborhoods become designated as historic districts.
Now, when I moved here in 2001, we were blowing everything up. That was kind of our way of doing things. And I remember people always saying, we're not saving anything, but now all of a sudden we are. When do you think that change happened?
Well, first, I have to dispute the idea that we blow everything up.
Okay.
So we blow everything up on the Strip.
Yep.
But the Strip was never meant to be a heritage tourism destination. It is part of the big economic engine of our state.
Okay.
And if you look across the country, if you look at cities and the percentage of their older buildings that they retain, it's somewhere around 80%. And I would say, just back of the envelope numbers for Vegas, we've got about 70% of our older buildings.
Really?
Yeah, so we're not doing too badly if you exclude the Strip.
Right.
That's a really unique part of our town.
I mean, I remember them going into certain areas and just leveling some of the older homes because they were too small, and somebody would, it's the old, got to build bigger house on a smaller piece of land.
The only neighborhood that I'm aware of that had a whole demolition was the Desert Inn Estates.
Okay.
And that was a neighborhood right on the Strip,
yeah.
too. But otherwise, apart from there were definitely some urban renewal, and maybe Michelle can talk more about this, but urban renewal projects that when we put in highways and did things kind of in the earlier days, that neighborhoods were decimated.
Yeah.
But that happened across the country. That happened in places like Chicago, too. I mean, there are some extremely terrible stories out there of neighborhoods being bulldozed and divided, but that happened across the country.
Now, Vegas is unique in just about every category. I mean, we were never expected to be 1 million people. We started out with 500 in 1905, 1941. We were up to 16,000 people, and then now we're at 2 million people. What is it that is trying to be preserved? Is there a specific architectural style that is in Vegas, or is it just the fact that these are classic homes from a specific time frame in American history, Vegas history, Western history?
The general rule is that they're 50 years old.
Okay.
And so right now that's anything that's 1966 and earlier. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean that just because it is 50 years old that it should be preserved. There are a lot of other criteria that get applied to, and that could be the architectural style, it could be the architect themselves, it could be the people who lived there, it could be something about the entire neighborhood. There's a lot of different criteria you apply when determining whether or not something should be designated as historic and receive those protections.
What do you like about it?
What I like, truthfully, is Vegas is so young, and that's a lot of things people don't realize. And like Heidi just said, buildings tend to have to be about 50 years or older in order to even lobby to preserve them.
Right.
So we've just aged to the point where we can really start lobbying for a large majority of our older buildings.
Okay.
And I think that's really exciting to be a part of that because the time is now. It wasn't necessarily 10 years ago. It wasn't necessarily 20 years ago because we didn't have those arguments. But we can start to make those arguments because our city was built during the mid-century for the most part. And so all of those buildings are now we can start looking at them and really deciding what's important and what we can save.
You guys just had your first home tour?
Second home tour.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was fabulous. Did you go?
Well, you sold out fast.
We sold out, yes.
Where did they go?
So this year we focused on 2 neighborhoods. We had downtown Las Vegas, which is kind of the greater Huntridge area, if you will, for lack of a better community description. But the Huntridge neighborhood does incorporate lots of smaller neighborhoods within it. And then we also went to Paradise Palms, which is in the Desert Inn Eastern area. That's the major crossroads there, right behind the Boulevard Mall.
Right.
And then we had a couple apartment complexes that are kind of on the fringe of those 2 communities.
Okay. And you toured the homes. Did you talk the architecture
Yeah, so basically with our home tour, we like to start off with kind of what we call our kickoff or keynote speaker.
Okay.
So we use that to kind of set the stage for what to expect and what types of things to look for when you're touring the homes. This year we had Pam Kieber of Retro Renovation. She has a national retro renovation blog that's really kind of like a home resource guide if you're looking to renovate your period appropriate home or your home in a period appropriate style. So she talked a lot about just the principles of modern design, some of the different styles you might see, and some of the different kind of detailing to look out for instance, flat roofs, wide overhangs, decorative concrete block. So she kind of talked about some of those elements, and then the tour follows with your chance to tour that on your own.
Oh, cool.
So it's an open house type environment. It's not necessarily guided, but the homeowners are there, and we do have volunteers with information about each home present to answer questions as well.
Are you finding that more people that are buying these older homes are interested in the history of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
Are they seeking these houses out specifically, or do they get interested because they moved into the house?
I think both. One of the great things about these older neighborhoods is they have a really diverse kind of population, so to speak.
Right.
You run across an older generation who has lived there, since they bought the house in 1960s, or potentially grew up there and have now, become the main caretaker of the home. You have younger professionals like myself who are moving in, who are particularly seeking that type of architecture. They also do tend to be on the lower side of housing prices, so you have a lower income population as well who comes and resides there. And all of these people, like we kind of talked about before, we do tend to be a pretty close community. And so all of these people kind of interact. We have, in our neighborhood, for instance, we have cocktail parties, and some people become interested maybe just through talking with one another. Some people maybe were already interested, and truthfully, some people might not be so interested, and that doesn't, that's not that big of a deal either. It's really about creating that community that's there to keep what you have.
Right.
Even if you're not interested in necessarily renovating it to be period appropriate. Right. And truthfully, I think that's common, is even if, I'm going to refer to mid-century because that's what we have so much here as far as our housing inventory. But even if you're not necessarily interested in mid-century, I think most people are generally interested in just the greater history of, where this house came from, what their background is.
Right.
So I do think there's a general interest in just following the history of your home.
Did Vegas grow in any particular order where, like, in the 1940s we had these homes over here, then in the 1950s we had these homes with this type of architecture here, or is there a mix?
Kind of both.
Okay.
So Vegas grew in the beginning in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, primarily downtown and around Fremont. However, in the 30s, once the dam construction started, then Boulder City and parts of Henderson popped up, and we paved a road that linked the two.
Right.
So once that road was paved, smaller little neighborhoods started to pop up, but it wasn't really until the late 40s, early 50s, once the material ration from the war was lifted, that housing developments really started to just pop up all over the place and multiply in but multiplied pretty quickly all over Vegas.
Okay. Now, although Vegas grew very, very slowly, was it segregated? Not black and white, because I understood that part, but like when I do tours in LA, I go through the Jewish area, I go through the Russian area, and each one has that design, that feel to it. do the Vegas neighborhoods have that?
You know, that's a good question because I'm not aware that we did.
Okay.
It may have been in the past, but and I think as we talked about earlier that so many people have moved here just over the last 30 years that I think a lot of those boundaries of those types of communities may have changed.
Okay.
And I think also, in the 80s, there was what happened all over the country with a lot of people leaving urban areas and heading to the suburbs that would then further kind of mix up any kind of communities that were there originally.
Right.
And so there aren't any that I'm aware of, but it may also have been just quite a small town at the time when a lot of these buildings were built.
Yeah, because I know when I talk to people who lived here, back in the 1950s and the 60s, everyone just came here. This was Vegas doesn't have that history that other towns have, that long history of, the Italians lived over here and the Roman Catholics lived over here, and people just came to Vegas to escape something or to start over. So you agree with that? Do you understand where I'm going?
No, I think so. I mean, I think that people came here for a fresh start, and I think that also just given the way that planning was done in the city and in the county, where there wasn't this push to keep neighborhoods. You often see these old maps, or these old photos, aerial photos of Las Vegas, and you have a neighborhood here, and then you have an expansive desert, then you have a neighborhood here. So I don't think that the way planning or lack thereof was done at the time, there wasn't this push to kind of build from like the downtown of Las Vegas and spread outward necessarily. Yeah. And so you just had these kind of patchwork of neighborhoods. And I don't think, just looking at the people who historically lived in the Beverly Green neighborhood, we're about to go in front of the Historic Preservation Commission to have it designated. And looking at those folks, they're more unified by class and profession. So in Beverly Green, you had a lot of performers, you had casino owners. For instance, my house was Erwin Molaski's parents' house. And so you had kind of that segment in that neighborhood. Yeah. And then if you go another part of Beverly Green, the greater Beverly Green neighborhood is called Paradise Village, and these are smaller houses of about 1,000 square feet. And there you have folks who worked in the casinos and may have been kind of in the orchestra as a piano player, but not the lead guy, right? And so I think that this was much more about profession than it was about kind of ethnic origin.
Right. So if you were management, you lived over here. If you were the musicians, you lived over here.
Right.
Kind of like what we refer to as Naked City.
Mm-hmm. Those are the showgirls, right? That's right by our house too. That's just a great collection of some really cool mid-century apartment buildings where all the showgirls lived. Yeah.
So. Now it makes perfect sense. Now that you explained it that way, it made perfect sense now. So, the one thing I loved about your tour is you got into Jackie Gaughan's apartment.
Yes, we did.
Please tell me about that. Oh my God, I am one of those guys that I go geek over Benny Binion, Jackie Gaughan, those guys.
There is so much to go geek over with Jackie Gaughan's apartment. I got to go. Alex Epstein at the El Cortez was fabulous. Everyone at the El Cortez was so fabulous. They let us use the space for free. They gave us a great rate on having some hors d'oeuvres out, and they were amazing. They were so helpful. And I got the first tour, and between the amazing blue tile in the kitchen that's original, but the best thing is it's the master bath.
Yeah.
You're going to tease me, aren't you? You're just going to tease me.
There's a pink marble toilet in there.
There's a pink marble bidet with a golden swan head.
Really?
Yes.
Now, this is the top floor of the El Cortez.
Of the tower that was built in the early 80s.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone live there now, or have they just kind of preserved it?
It's empty now.
Okay.
So after Mr. Gaughan passed away in 2014, the family removed the furniture. It was their furniture.
Right.
And the El Cortez is in the process of doing some restoration work, and I think they're going to be renting out for special occasions, but I'm not exactly sure what their plans are. But I read that it wasn't until this past Christmas that even many of the staff had seen it.
Wow.
And so no one really had been in that apartment. And the view from the kitchen patio, the kitchen sliding glass doors onto the patio, I think that's the best view onto the mountains.
Oh, neat.
It was an amazing place to live.
Yeah, I when we first started the podcast, we got to interview Michael Gaughan. What a sweetheart.
Very nice man.
Oh my God. So I can imagine what Jackie was like. I mean, here you have basically the pioneers of Vegas. And just, they never flaunted that. They just, okay, I bought a casino. I employed 2,000 people. They stayed with me for 20 years. Okay.
Yeah. And well, in my few interactions that I had with some of the El Cortez staff, everybody spoke so highly of Jackie, and really the feeling that I got from them was that the El Cortez really has operated like a large family.
Yes.
And that, they were always really appreciative and just really felt like Jackie was one in the same with them. Even though he was the owner, he was on the floor.
Right.
He would talk with people, ask dealers how they were doing, use his employees for advice for his business.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't talk to a single person that had anything negative to say about him.
Yeah. It's just the fact that they've been able to keep that place like they have. I mean, you walk in there and it feels like the 1950s. It's got that vibe to it. It's got that look to it. It's got the smell to it. Although they modernized it, they've kept that look, that feel. And it's kind of interesting because I'm down there a lot because I go to meetings at the Medical Arts Building.
Emergency Arts?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing the number of people who, were sitting there and they'll go, what was this? And was that the Woolworth Building?
I don't remember which building that was.
Yeah.
What it was before. I used to know, and it's kind of fallen out of my memory at this point.
But it fascinated me the number of people who have this interest now. Mm-hmm. Moved here in 2010, but I still want to know, where was Woolworths? Where was JCPenney's? And and I know some people that do that. They do know the history of Vegas, and it's just so cool to hear people that are younger than I am that want to keep it that way. Okay, yes, it's the Emergency Arts Building, but it still has that look of either JCPenney's or Woolworths. Mm-hmm. Just the fact that they know what those two are.
Yeah.
Back when Vegas was that small town. And that's kind of what you guys are trying to keep together, but you're trying to do it on the housing side. Or are you looking at the whole picture?
Well, we also we work to get designations for neighborhoods, individual buildings. We have a lot of educational programming. So we have the Vintage Vegas Home and History Home Tour that we are doing annually. We also do an energy efficiency educational event in February because...
How does that fit into preservation?
Because we want people to preserve their homes and make them energy efficient in ways that are period appropriate.
Ooh, I like that.
Them to do that. We do other kind of members only events and other events throughout the year that educate people about our historic neighborhoods. And we also curate the archives of Hugh Taylor. He was the architect who designed the Desert Inn Casino, as well as many of the Desert Inn Estate houses and somewhere around 1,000 other projects in the Las Vegas Valley. And his drawings had been sitting in his garage for 30 years. And I happened to call him because I have a Hugh Taylor house. Okay. And we were trying to figure out what was this bookcase, because we could tell the bookcase was newer than the house. Right. And we couldn't figure it out. And so I had heard there was this architect named Hugh Taylor who still lived in town. And so I find him on Google, I call, and a nice woman answers the phone. And I said, I'm looking for Hugh Taylor, the architect. And she said, he is sitting right here.
He just happens to be right next to me.
Yeah, that was his wife, Priscilla. And I went over the next week to see about my house plans. They, of course, are very smart people, had already discovered that I was the executive director of the Nevada Preservation Foundation. And that day I walked away with the entire archive. So about 5,000 drawings for about 1,000 projects. And
what are you doing with those?
So we just got a grant from the Las Vegas Centennial Commission for a little over $100,000, and that will allow us to do a couple of things. One, document all of the drawings so that we know what's there. We are also looking into doing research to figure out where these, like what the location is of all of these.
Right.
And we're going to put together a little app so people can navigate on their phone to different Hugh Taylors.
Okay.
And we're also putting together about 6 houses that you will be able to take a virtual tour of online. So it will be like walking through the rooms of the house. And those will be of the Desert Inn Estate houses.
Ah, neat.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of, and also we got a grant from the Nevada Humanities last year to do an oral history with Hugh, which was very lucky that we did that because we lost Hugh in October.
Oh, no.
He was 91.
Wow.
And had been ill, but he was really with it right up until the very end. Just the last 2 weeks he had kind of faltered.
So when does Lonnie Hammergren's homes fall into preservation?
Lonnie Hammergren's home is a fabulous piece. It's got a lot of very interesting pieces in the yard. As far as historic preservation, that would be very interesting. Because as far as the house, there's not. I would have to look at the historic integrity. There's been a lot of alterations, and the number of alterations is usually what undermines its ability to be designated.
You want as close to the original as possible.
The street view, right? This is really just about the street view. So what you see from the street.
All right.
It's not about paint color. It's not about what you do with your bathroom. Of course, we would love to see you keep your bathroom, and we can help people find ways to keep their bathrooms. But it's really just about what you see from the street.
Okay, so let's go down the road here. If somebody wants to know more about the older houses in Vegas, how do they find the information? If somebody is walking through downtown and they take a left-hand turn and they go down into, the old railroad houses down there, how do they find out? Is there any maps of like a trail of history maps or anything available?
There's some things available. So one of the things that the city of Las Vegas has actually been working on, I'm not sure how long, but probably over the last at least 6 years, they've been doing historic surveys. So they've hired companies, architectural historian companies, who come in and do an architectural survey of the neighborhood. They haven't done it for every neighborhood, but there's quite a few that they've done it for. And to go back to our neighborhood, for instance, Beverly Green, they had one done for. And because of that survey, that's how we got a lot of our information. And we're able to figure out that it was, in fact, eligible to be a historic neighborhood. And that, we should put all this work into it because we already have this existing research.
Okay.
So you can find a lot of information just on the city's website, on their historic preservation page, because all the surveys that they have had done are available to the public. And then there's a couple walking tours that are also available in multiple locations. Do we still have them on our website?
We have them on our website.
And we also have them on our website as well.
And what's your website address?
NevadaPreservation.org.
Okay. Links will be on our website. Okay.
So there's a couple neighborhoods and also, I guess, communities. It's not all residential that's on there. There's some commercial communities that are on there as well.
Okay.
So you can download those, and those are just to walk yourself through it with a little bit of information there. And outside of that, it's a lot of possible research on your own. But we have quite a few resources that are really easy to take advantage of. The Las Vegas Review-Journal archives are at the Nevada State Museum, and it's pretty easy. I was actually working on a grant project for Hugh Taylor, and just in searching for Paradise Palms, I found probably at least 12 to 16 articles that documented the history of that neighborhood. The historic surveys that are done use that resource as well. But if you were just interested in a neighborhood, it's very easy to go down there, and there's more than likely at least an advertisement or something that you can find on your house. There's also, Lead Library special collections. That's
an amazing place.
Yeah. And the News Bureau, there's quite a bit of, resources that we have that people just don't know that it's there to take advantage of. And if you email these, I don't have their email address on the top of my head, but they're really helpful. And if you just reach out, usually somebody can point you in the right direction.
And also I would add that by the end of the summer, we should have walking tour PDFs ready on our website for the Beverly Green Historic District. And then there's the proposed Paradise Village National Historic District. Okay. And we should have walking tours up by the end of the summer for both of those, too.
Vegas, again, going back to the 40s and the 50s, what was it, the Vegas News Bureau? The Las Vegas News Bureau? Mm-hmm. Was like this marketing machine. And thankfully they preserved so much of their marketing material that you go down into the the special collections there, and I mean, the advertisements they have for the communities and for the realtors. I mean, they preserved everything.
And I would say too, like we did a city register nomination for the house that's currently owned by the folks who had the TV show Ghost Adventures. Okay. And this was the old State Bar building that most people know on the corner of 6th and Charleston. But it was originally owned by Cyril Wengert, who was one of the incorporators of NV Energy. And when I was preparing that nomination, I went to Special Collections because I could find online that they had several boxes of items from the Cyril Wengert family. And so I could go in and just request those. You have to wear your nice little gloves so that you don't get any of your, the oils from your hands on anything. But I could just sit down for as long as I needed to and pour through all of these amazing pieces. I mean, I even found several of Lottie Wengert's dance cards. And the little book, where you'd go to a dance and then the boys would ask you to dance and you'd write them down and they would be assigned. And I could say Cyril Wengert showed up a lot in those books. So it was clear from the beginning that Lottie had a shine for Cyril.
Yeah, okay. Well, so okay, now I moved to Vegas. I buy one of these old homes. I just buy it because I like how it looked. It was in a cute neighborhood. It was close to where I work. I can walk. But all of a sudden I get that itch. I want to know more about this home. Can you help that person?
Sure.
How?
Yeah. Well, we do ask, we do provide services to help people with their houses. We do ask that folks become members. All right. It's only $35 a year to become a member. And then from there, we can help people with research on their home, with finding sources for if they need a certain color of tile, or we can help them. I mean, I think the big thing that people often do when they buy an older home is they replace the windows, and we can try to stop them from doing that because that's probably the worst return on investment. There are many other things you should do besides replace your windows, but there are a lot of things that between Michelle and I that we can help people out with when they buy their house.
All right. So now you're working towards the 2017 events.
Yes.
Okay. What events are you doing that's going to lead up to the big one? Do you have anything on the horizon for?
And as far as smaller events, I think we're looking at doing a members only. We have a lot of new members that came out of the Home in History, so we might be doing a members only pool party. We're looking at a really cool location that we're not quite ready to talk about. And there may be also.
If it's the Binions Ranch, call me.
No, it's not the Binions Ranch.
Right.
Sorry. And then there's a cocktail party we might be throwing in the fall. Actually, because of the massive success of Home and History this year, we are in the process of rethinking a lot of our intermediary events because we will probably start planning next year's Home and History quite early this year.
That was going to be my next question.
Because it will be very substantially different from last year. So last year you bought, or this year, this one that was just happened, you purchase the ticket to the home tour,
right?
And then you get the kickoff talk, your afternoon of homes to see, and then if you bought the VIP ticket, then you get the martini tour in the evening. This next year, it will probably be much more a la carte. So we are hoping to migrate more toward what we're calling is the Palm Springs modernism model, where we'll have bus tours, we'll have films, we'll have discussions, there'll be the home tour still, we'll have nightly cocktail parties. We're hoping to bring in vendors for furniture and housewares, but we're really shifting it into what we are, at this point, hoping to be a 2.5 to 3 day event with a lot of different individually ticketed things that you can attend, and some that are free, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What surprised you about this year's home tour?
That it sold out so quickly?
Yeah.
Because the Jackie Gaughan, the Martini Tour, that sold out 6 weeks in advance. 6 weeks in advance. Last year, we didn't sell out. We were very close. We were like 10 tickets away from selling out. But we had a lot of day of sales.
All right.
And
how many people were
bought tickets?
Yeah.
250.
Okay, all right.
And we had a waiting list quite long of like at least under 20 people who did not get tickets.
Oh, man.
We were able to accommodate a couple of folks.
Okay.
But
yeah.
What do you think you're going to do for the 2017 event?
Well, a couple things that we're looking at right now that we will more than likely be doing are some more bus tours. It won't be the open house format of the home tour, but it'll be a less expensive ticket. It'll be a guided bus tour that'll go through some of these neighborhoods. Think kind of like the Beverly Hills Star home tour, so to speak. We can point out a couple of the houses, that where we know famous people have lived. Point out ones that are pristine examples of a certain type of architecture. We're probably going to do one of churches, mid-century churches. We're going to include some.
We have that here?
We do.
Amazing churches. We have
really?
some great, amazing churches.
Great churches. We'll probably do some commercial districts as well. One option would be to do the motor court hotels, which are, North Las Vegas Boulevard and Fremont Street. So we're definitely going to have a couple architectural bus tours that you can take. We may have some guided walking tours through those districts that we previously mentioned, have kind of a guided version of that. And then we're looking into, like Heidi said, perhaps bringing in some vendors to do some furniture shows or some houseware shows, clothing, whatever we might, be able to work out with folks. But we definitely want to bring in some vendors as well.
And then the home tour will remain kind of the premier event the weekend, the one that, that will be the big event.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But, do you think you're going to involve the county museum? The one over here. We
really hadn't contemplated who our partners would be at this point.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Because I always take people over there because they got that one street of Vegas houses. Mm-hmm. How we looked in the 30s, how we looked in the 40s, how we looked in the 50s, and they have the church that I married my second wife in. But anyway, which should have really told me something. But anyway, okay. Heidi, how long have you lived in Vegas?
It'll be 11 years, 4th of July.
From?
I moved here from Chicago.
What brought you to Vegas?
I was hired by UNLV's anthropology department to be a professor in linguistic anthropology.
What do you like about Vegas?
I love that, honestly, that historic preservation is new and we get to do it. It's great.
You're at the forefront of it.
It's fabulously exciting.
Well, that and you still have a lot of the people that did it are still alive and still here.
And some of them are my neighbors.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. What is your favorite Vegas show?
I would say Penn and Teller.
Okay. Why?
It's smart magic, and I can't figure it out. And it's smart, and they have a great sense of humor that matches mine.
Okay. I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Does Vegas have a hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about but should know about?
Architecturally?
Anything.
Oh. Gosh, I don't know that there are so many. I mean, I'm not sure how many people know about the underground house.
Yes.
Right. I mean, there's the underground house, but it's owned by I think it's like a nonprofit or a church. It lives in Florida. We've tried to contact them many times, but I think that's always, whenever we put up on our Facebook page, what do you want to see on this year's home tour?
That's it.
It's always the underground house is the first
Oh, definitely.
thing. I mean, I think that is amazing. I think there's also a lot of houses that we just don't quite know about yet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a lot of amazing houses out there that the owners are quietly happy in their fabulous house, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, my brain is just fried today. Rosenthal's house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I would love to go into that house in the country club. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Lefty Rosenthal, the guy who ran the Stardust for the Chicago mob, that house just, from the photos I've seen, they haven't changed much of it. Still that shag carpeting 1970s look to it.
Well, maybe it'll be on next year's home tour. You never know.
Okay, that and the Howard Hughes house.
That one too, yeah.
Those are my two houses. Oh God, those are the two houses. The lady at Channel 8, I keep sending her an email, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, I got you on the list," but she has never called me and go, come on out and I'll walk you through the Howard Hughes house. I'm just like, oh, please, somebody come on. What is your favorite Vegas movie?
Gosh, I'm not sure that I have one. I mean, I guess the easy answer is Casino, but I feel like
that is the easy answer. Come on.
Everyone says that, but I live right by that Tony Roma's, so I remember moving here and saying, "Oh my gosh, that's the Tony Roma's right up the street."
Yep.
And so I think because when we first moved here, my husband and I watched all those movies, and that one just was literally so close to home that it kind of stuck with me.
Have you ever gone through the Mob Museum?
Oh yeah, many times.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm friends with Frank Collada, so. But okay, your turn. You now. Yeah.
Now that I've had time to think about my answers.
Michelle, how long have you lived here?
I've lived here actually 8 years to the day, I believe.
From
San Diego, California.
Why Vegas?
Why Vegas? That's kind of a loaded question for me, but I'm just going to leave it at, the classic. I was just looking for something new and different.
Okay.
It was also 2008, and I was working in architecture, which was not a good industry to be in the middle of 2008. So I really needed to do something to kind of figure out my next step in life. And Vegas seemed like a good place to figure it out.
So you came in right before the crash.
I probably came in either right before or right in the middle, depending on how you look at it. I think San Diego tanked a little bit before Vegas did.
I'm from Minnesota. I moved here in March of 2001, right before September. So I had those 6 months of like, God, this is a really cool town. All of a sudden, it's like, where is everybody? Please fly the planes again. Come on, please. Okay. And I moved from Minnesota because it was so freaking cold. I just got tired of shoveling snow. And Vegas was not where I was going to live. This was just going to be touch down, get my feet dried off, get warm, and then move out of here. This town had nothing that interested me other than the Strip. But then once I got off of it, once I started to see the history of it, once I started to see some of the architect, I love the stuff from the 1940s and the 1950s. I love those small houses. The thing that interests me is how people made it, how they survived out here, because we were so isolated from everything else, and the only thing we had going for us was the mob and the Strip. But yet everybody came out here, and they had to survive. This was it. They had no other place to go. And so they made the best of it. You have El Dorado days. It's a big example of it. I mean, that's the type of community Vegas was back then. Everybody everybody put out. Everybody did something to make the community better. And so, and then, of course, once you get farther out, you got, Bryce Canyon, you got Lake Mead, you got all the other,
Well, the wonderful hiking, I mean.
Oh, my God, it's just, and again, I go back to what I always say is I bring people off the Strip on tours. We're heading off to Hoover Dam or we're heading off to the Grand Canyon, and I'll have somebody that's been, I've been here 30 years. I've come 3 times a year for the last 30 years, and all of a sudden they'll look out and go, "Do you have Walmarts?" Yes, we have neighborhoods. They're just like, "Wow, this is cool." Or I would go from downtown or from the Strip out to Red Rock, and you just go out Charleston. I think Charleston is like a microcosm of Vegas history. There's just, Vegas grew out that way.
Yeah, and I can see that. Yeah. I love driving.
Yeah, and I get these people, and they're just like, "This is so cool." They see the small houses, they see all the business, and they just fall in love with it. And just like I said, I've been here since 2001, and I'm still here, and I don't ever see myself leaving here. So, favorite Vegas movie?
Well, I'm going to have to agree with Heidi and say Casino, but a lot of it is for the same reasons. I have seen that movie so many times before I moved here, and then to end up living, like Heidi said, next to, Levitt's Custard, which is in the movie, and Tony Romo's, which is in the movie, and frequenting Atomic, all of those things. I just think it's so much fun to see that they're still here, and that, we actually do live and breathe almost kind of like they did in the movie in some respects. So cool. I love that movie.
Right. The next most popular one is either Con Air or Vegas Vacation.
I do like Vegas Vacation a lot, I will admit.
Yeah, my wife and I just got done touring Casa de Shenandoah.
Oh, wonderful! Oh, that's great.
That was that was an eye opener. It's Wayne. You see Wayne Newton's life, okay, and you understand him a lot more, okay. But then you get to see the original house out there. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then you see the mansion, which isn't a mansion. It's really a nice little house. And I'm like everyone else. I'm standing there and I'm looking at this, and our guide is like, "Yes, they used the house in the movie. Other than crashing the door, they used the house." I'm like, "That is so cool. That is so freaking cool." So, all right, cool. They can get a hold of you on the website. The links will be on our website, thevegastourist.com. And any last words of advice, comments, questions?
I think just that if you have questions about preservation, if you're interested in preservation, even if you're not interested in preservation, come talk to us, because you can find out a lot. And even as an, history buff and preservationist, there was so much that I didn't know until I started working with the organization.
Yes.
So there's a lot out there.
Vegas has a lot of hidden history.
A lot.
And a lot of very famous history, too. I mean,
Yeah.
it might not go back as far as other cities, but the quality of that history, I'd say we've made up for any lack of time depth by really getting a lot of stuff in.
Yeah.
Do you think, sorry, we're trying to wrap this up, and I'm going to ask you another question. Do you think that the Riviera had anything to preserve?
Actually, we've had a lot of folks ask us questions about that, and Michelle and I got a really good tour, like a 4-hour tour of the entire building before it closed.
Oh, neat.
And we went to look for what could be salvaged. And, the original building was a beautiful building. It was an amazing building. That porte cochere was to die for. I mean, it was a graceful building. I would say that many of the additions are
ruined it.
Unfortunate. And I know that people have a lot of memories there. And that's the thing about buildings, is that there's this great quote that buildings are memories we can touch. And so I understand that, people feel like they're losing that part of their memories, and they are, and I get that. But if we look at it as historic preservation, looking at historic integrity, it was so undermined by a lot of the additions. That said, we were able to, we did find that there was one thing that we wanted to keep, and that we were able to work with a demolition company to retrieve from the Riviera, and that's the cherry red bathtub sinks, gold faucets, and lucite towel rods from what we believe was Liza Minnelli's dressing room. And so we have those, and they're in storage at one of our partner organizations.
Cool.
And we hope at some point that we'll be having a fabulous auction and a chance for everyone to have their photo taken in Liza Minnelli's bathtub.
You were explaining that, and I had a flashback from when the Sahara had their auction, and you could walk through it all. Mm-hmm. And I remember going up to the suites up on top, and one of the suites had that god awful pink, had a big jacuzzi pink tub.
Oh, and it went down with the if we'd known, we would have saved that too.
Yeah.
Actually, it might still be there. Truthfully, didn't they just renovate a lot of the towers? Yeah. And if it was in good condition, I don't know if they would have removed it.
But some of those suites were just screaming 1970s.
Yeah, that's a great era.
And then my second flashback, and we'll end this, is my first time to Vegas. I was here for the Consumer Electronics Show, and I stayed at the Dunes, and it was right before they closed it down. And I had a room that had a pink swan bathtub.
Nice.
Yeah, and at the time I'm thinking that thing is as gaudy as can be, but now I'm sitting back going, that'd be so cool to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
That Vegas was always over the top in everything that we did. So, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your help. You have answered a lot of my curiosities.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. It was fun.
Let's go plan 2017, and we'll get you guys a little bit bigger on the map there. All right.
Sounds good.
Heidi and Michelle, thank you very much. This is Marc Anthony. This is the VegasTourist.com podcast. Of course, you can always leave your comments, your questions on the website. Like this podcast and subscribe. We're also on YouTube and Google Play now. So this is Marc Anthony for Heidi and Michelle. Have yourself a wonderful day.
It's getting